Welcome back. Thank you for watching me on YouTube. As always, I talk about what's going on in my community, what's going on with the government, and of course the corrupt mainstream media. As always, I give you my honest take on an issue, and I call it like I see it. To the many people who supported my videos, the subscribers and the friends who are watching me worldwide, thank you once again for your support. And to the critics who are watching, stay irrelevant. Today we're going to mark a day in history. Senator Ted Kennedy, the senator from Massachusetts, the champion of most liberal causes, he died at the age of 77. After a year-long fight with brain cancer, Senator Ted Kennedy died. I want to send my condolences to his family, his friends, and the many people who supported him up in Massachusetts. Although most of my conservative critics are going to always rate my videos poor for the fact that I do tend to lean left of center. As an independent voter, I do not always support the Democratic Party nor the liberal causes. But however, I do want to give Senator Ted Kennedy props for doing three things. He stood up for civil rights. He stood up for human rights, as well as this healthcare debate. As Senator Ted Kennedy was dying of brain cancer, one of his biggest goals is to see that this healthcare reform was to be passed. President Obama is having difficulty trying to get his message out there because many of the conservatives in the media have been outnumbering him in the town hall debates, and the Republicans have gained footing. That means that the Republicans could win back Congress. However, with the situations at hand and this economic recession, most people trust President Obama on most of these issues, regardless of what any of the conservative critics say. However, with Senator Ted Kennedy dying, will it give the healthcare debate another boost? We don't know. But one thing is for sure, that Senator Ted Kennedy was a champion of many liberal causes. And sometimes with his shortcomings, which is the failed presidential candidate bid, and of course his Chappaquidda, the incident where it killed one of his campaign workers. Senator Ted Kennedy was not only made for being a Kennedy, it was just part of the bloodline. The brother of Jack Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy. He got into Senate at the age of 30, and he's been championing the Senate for many years. He's been good friends with some of the Republicans. He's been enemies with some of the Republicans. But as always, he's had a good heart on many issues, and he's never one to shy away from an issue. He stood up bold. He stood up tall. He was one of the men who would champion the causes of the Democratic Party. Even though many Republicans use him as a scapegoat because of his so-called liberal views. Well, mostly his liberal views. Senator Ted Kennedy brushed off that criticism and kept on fighting for what he believed in. Now, many of my Republican friends and many of my conservative viewers will consider the fact that this will be getting a lot of airplay, for the very fact that his namesake is one of the main reasons why it's being played on all the news channels. But some of my conservatives will probably want to change the channel. After all, you know, Senator Ted Kennedy was not one of the people that they agreed to. But however, I know many people are going to send their condolences to him, and I wish you would do the same. As always, I know most of my videos are off the record of some things, and I try to be honest about it, and I give you an honest opinion. I call it like I see it. Now, for all my Republican and conservative critics who are watching, you know, these town halls may get you some traction because you believe President Obama and his policies are leaning towards socialism or Nazism and fascism. However, as an independent voter who thinks on the middle ground, I believe that some of the stuff that is being said is offensive. Not only to me as an American citizen, but to me, not only to look at President Obama as an achievement in the African American community, but as an insult to me as a black man. For all the people who've been complaining, I see that the demographic usually tends to be more towards President Obama's weakness, his race. Despite all his racial issues, his ethics, his accountability, and the promises are some of the reasons why many of these people at the town halls are protesting. Now, I know there'll probably be one of the critics who'll throw in, why are you talking about the race issue? Well, obviously, we had the first African-American president, and many of the people who've been criticizing me usually throw out the racial insults. Something in my mind tells me that with the coming of age of President Obama, we're going to see the outpouring of hate, the outpouring of disagreement, and the outpouring of just not getting to understand that other people have an opinion. Now, I'm not trying to silence my conservative critics, but I do know one thing, that from the many times I've been posting videos, I try to keep it honest. And despite whatever anybody says about me, the videos will continue. In closing, I want to say this. Senator Ted Kennedy, you are a part of this nation. I wish you well in your journey to peace. The liberal line, as they would call them. May you rest in peace. To all my people who are watching me on YouTube, thank you once again.